What an incredible learning journey that was, obviously, for Nick Jones, and as he says, to be back in the studio with us for our next show. Now, delighted to be joined now by Kate MacDonald from Shropshire Council. Kate, welcome.
Thank you.
Picking up very much, you want to talk about some of the themes which we've already heard about, haven't we, today, particularly during the education panel. Talk to us about apprenticeships, but before you do, in fact, tell us a bit about your job and what you do at the council.
So I currently have two hats at the council. So I work in organisational development as part of the wider HR team, but I'm also the upskill programme lead. So upskill is our project, which encompasses the apprenticeship levy. It also has work experience, and then traineeships as well is quite a new thing for us. And I think last time I was here, I was talking about Kickstart as well, the DWP scheme. Yeah. So that did form part of our programme when we had that offer available.
So when I saw you last week at the Shropshire Leadership event, you were wearing your other hat, basically.
Yeah, that was right? My events organiser one. Yeah.
So talk to us about the apprenticeships levy. Do companies understand exactly what it is, and are they taking advantage and using it the way it's designed to be used?
So the apprenticeship levy is generally, there's a lot of myths that surround the levy, and I think even though the levy has been in place since 2017, I think there is still a lot of information that businesses don't really understand about the levy. So any large employer that has an annual pay bill of over £3 million will pay 5% into a pot of money which sits in their little account, which is managed by the government, and they can access that levy pot to then use that to pay for training for apprenticeship standards. So that's large employers, but then as well there are different offers which are open to SMEs as well. So SME organisations can access the apprenticeship levy through a number of routes. They can use an apprenticeship training agency, which isn't the preferred route because there's a cost to that, and of course it's using agency, and the apprentice is then not employed by the actual employer. Then there's a co-investment route. So that means that they can access 95% of the apprenticeship levy funds and then fund the 5% themselves. The preferred route, which we would like to promote as Shropshire Council and something that we could offer, is apprenticeship levy transfer. So that's when these large employers that have their levy pots, they have funds that they haven't spent in the previous financial year, and they can transfer up to 25% of that unspent monies. So Shropshire Council this year has approximately £123,000 left in our levy pot to transfer to SMEs, to non-levy paying organisations, and that can include like non-registered like housing providers or care providers as well. And they can then use that to draw down the levy funds to then pay for their employees to undertake levy training.
And given what we've been hearing so far on the show today about how much trouble some companies are having actually finding staff and recruiting, this is the perfect time, isn't it?
Definitely. The apprenticeship levy is a great way to diversify workforces. It's a great way to open up opportunities for people of all ages. There's no age limit. As long as you're over the age of 16, you can do an apprenticeship. And they're a great way for businesses to teach current employees new skills, or they could potentially recruit into posts which they find that are hard to recruit to as well.
Earn while you learn, they always call it.
Yeah, definitely.
So are there any particular restrictions as to how some of these companies can use the money then if they do get it?
Yeah, so apprenticeship levy funding is only to pay for apprenticeship training. So you can't fund salary out of it or anything, and that's the employer's responsibility to pay the apprentice's wage. So they could choose to pay the national apprenticeship wage, which we've heard about the cost of living crisis as well, isn't the highest wage, but it is a wage for a young person potentially who's starting out. Or they could choose to pay the national minimum wage, the living wage, or any wage that they choose really, as long as it's suitable and meets the requirements of the national standards in terms of wages and salaries. So there is that opportunity for businesses to benchmark that where they want. So it's quite a flexible approach. But apprenticeship standards, there's about 650. And they're growing all the time. There's so many out there, and they're available to all businesses. And the way in which a standard works is that, say you've got a business administration level 3 apprentice, doesn't matter what business they're working in, as long as they're doing business admin, that apprenticeship can be made to fit that learning environment.
That's one of the differences, isn't it, from people that maybe have got memories from the past about how apprenticeships used to be and haven't maybe gone back and revisited and looked at how different they are now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There's still a lot of stigma around them. Like, a lot of businesses out there still think that it's just about employing young people. And I think over COVID, lots of people, we've talked like earlier around like people being furloughed, people being made redundant as well. And perhaps they need to get out there and learn a new skill. And apprenticeships is a way to do that. And there's no restriction on what age you can be to apply for an apprenticeship vacancy. It's all about learning new skills, really, and that's what, you know, we like to promote as an upskill service as well, that it's just about learning something new, applying it to a workplace, and then improving your skills and knowledge, which form part of those apprenticeship standards. But what apprenticeships do as well is teach you behaviours, they teach you transferable skills, like doing a job and doing an apprenticeship at the same time. You're learning to time manage, you're learning to balance, you're learning to prioritise as well.
Well, and a company can actually teach an apprentice the way that the particular company works.
Exactly.
Can't they, as well, so?
Yeah, and there is part of an apprenticeship as well that lots of employers do see as a barrier, which is part of the funding rules which govern the apprenticeship levy, because obviously it's government led. But there is something written into those funding rules called off-the-job learning, and I hate that terminology because it's not off the job. It's not a day out of the workplace, and it's all about utilising the time within the workplace to enhance the skills that apprentice is learning. So it could be through shadowing, mentoring, coaching, anything like that can be counted as that off-the-job learning, as well as the time spent with an approved training provider that's teaching those vital knowledge and skills that apprentice needs.
Yeah.
So is there a time scale in terms of these SMEs or this pot of money to claim it, and what do people do if they want to know more about it?
So what we would like SMEs to do is have a think about what kind of jobs they've got. We're more than happy to have a conversation with them and help them identify what apprenticeship might be suitable for their business, or potentially what skills they're looking for, and then we could potentially identify what apprenticeships they might want to consider from that point. If they visit shropshire.gov.uk, type in apprenticeship levy transfer to the search bar, it will come up there, and it's a really simple application process. The deadline for this pot is the 24th of December, and then the funding needs to be allocated by the end of the financial year. And every financial year, we'll start the pot again. As long as we've got money there, then we'll offer it out to transfer.
Nice Christmas present, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
For somebody, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's great.
thank you very much for coming in and telling us all
Thank you.
about it. So SMEs, the message is, how many shopping days till Christmas? About 35, then.
Yeah, I think
Like
so.
that, yeah.
Something like that.
Shop
Kate-
for an apprentice.
Kate from Shropshire Council, let's say thanks to Kate. Thank you very much.
Thank
Kate.
you.
We'll take another short break now, and then we'll be joined by two members of the team from ACO to tell us about something we were very excited on the way into the studio this morning to see being advertised on the way into Shrewsbury. See you in a minute.